here. My occupation is a general contractor, home builder, remodeling contractor, and my career has been one that has evolved, or a progression from working with the tools of the trade, uneducated, I shouldn't say uneducated, I should say high school educated, and then I had a little opportunity that I wanted to go and be a coach in high school. So I stayed out of high school a year, then I went to school up at Western State for a year, I went up there for a quarter, and realized that that wasn't where I needed to be. And there was somebody that was pushing me away from that, even though that's the first time in my life I ever applied myself academically. And so I wasn't that student that was going from high school to college. That was not the career path for me. It was for me to learn a trade. And so that little hiccup of some time to go to school to try to be a coach, the high school level, because those are the guys that made a difference in my life in high school. But what they taught me was a good work ethic. They taught me that if you work hard, you can be good at what you want to do. And so that helped me with that good work ethic that I'll come back to later on. Well, the first thing I'll tell you is the school of hard knocks. Early on, when I was a carpenter and wanted to become a builder or manager, a guy came into my life that helped me to believe in myself, and that was my father-in-law. He was a great encourager. And so anybody that's looking to get in any career, having men in your lives is a great way to go. Iron sharpens iron. And it's just awesome to have somebody, particularly a guy like my father-in-law, who was very financially educated. He was a CPA. He was also a businessman on the side. He owned commercial properties and did small developments. And so he was a great encourager for me, and so I could help him, or he could help me, track where we were heading. Ironically, the one job, or the one project that he got involved with me on and pushed me very hard financially was the one that we lost the most money on. So it isn't that, father-in-law with the deep pockets is going to be the savior, because he let us bleed. He wanted us to feel like that was part of the education. That's part of the risk going into what we do in the building industry and the development industry. And I have done 3 small developments on my own. So I guess you could add another slash on my career as a small-time developer. I wanted to go back to when I was being a carpenter, and I wanted to become a builder. That's when my father-in-law came along, but I also went to school. I went to night school. Back then it was called El Paso Community College. Today it's called Pikes Peak Community College. And so I went nights to El Paso Community College to learn how to draft and to learn construction methods. And so I spent a couple of years going nights, taking about 10 to 12 hours per quarter, which I think is a full load, working full-time, and also married at that time, and with our daughter on the ground as well. So it was an awful lot of time committed to my occupation and my career, but always the support. One of the things I would encourage people to do in this is get involved in your trade associations. For a home builder, it's called the NAHB, the National Association of Home Builders. There also is a local chapter, and it's the Colorado Springs Association of Home Builders. And I first joined that in 1976, the year I built my very first home. And through that association, I was involved in something called a Builder 20 Club. And what it is it's where 20 different builders all over the United States get together, and we're similar size builders and similar type builders. In other words, we were all small volume custom home builders. And the rule is you can't be in the same sales region of anybody else in the group. So we can share all information, everything financial. Matter of fact, you're required to, and all of that information goes to the NAHB so they can share, they can compile that information to help other builders grow as well. But within our group, we had just a wonderful relationship with probably a dozen different builders over the years, and that was probably that spanned probably 8 years. And so getting with other builders twice a year for a 3-day meeting, that was probably the greatest education that I've ever had. And then it goes way beyond the education because it was also meeting other people. You know, I think to be personable, I think you need to be able to smile at people. You need to be, you know, to never meet a stranger, to go out there and be willing to get involved in other people and try to be a servant for them. You've got to want to please and give them what they're looking for. Whether it's early on in my career as a carpenter and I'm working for someone else, or it is that you have a client that you're building a custom home for and you're working for that person or that couple. And typically, to be a home builder, you need to have a heck of an ego. And I have tried my best to contain that ego. You know, I'm happy with who I am. I'm proud of who I am. But I also let that big guy in the sky, you know, monitor my life and take care of me. In this industry, you don't talk about salaries for the most part with regards to tools of the trade. So starting early on in my career, everything is by the hour and or by the piece. You know, how much work can you get done for so much for framing a building or for hanging drywall or for putting a roof on. So you could make more money by working faster, and they could just call that piecework, or you work hourly when you're working for somebody else. And so early on, the way I could make more money is work more hours. And if the boss that I had wasn't willing to pay overtime or couldn't pay overtime, which is very difficult in this industry, particularly the residential side of things, then I would go to work for somebody else, and I would have 2 jobs. That's how I made more money, because you were kind of maxed out on your hourly wage. Back then, when I first started in the construction industry, I worked for $4.71 an hour, and that was as a union laborer. I was a junior in high school. That was really good money. As that evolved, and as I was working by the hour as a carpenter for the various trades, whether it was framing or trim work, whatever, it would be anywhere from $8 to $16 an hour. Now remember, this is nearly 50 years ago. Matter of fact, it's over 50 years ago. I graduated from high school in 1971, so it was, you know, this year will be 50 years of my graduation class. So that's a long time ago. Today, a good carpenter can make in that $40 to $50 an hour range. If you're working for yourself as a subcontractor, most guys are trying to get $60, $70 an hour, but you've got a whole pickup full of tools, and you know there's a lot of expense there, and you're supplying all your own fasteners, that kind of thing. Okay, now let's evolve that from working with the tools of the trade to where you start doing your own ownership. And call me a businessman, call me an entrepreneur, I'm a builder. And the fluctuation there is really wide. When I started building homes, you know, you target a certain percentage of your home, of what you would, you know, like to make. And I will tell you this, that I had annual income up to $600,000 a year. That was the best year I ever had. I had a couple of those. But our normal year was probably in the $100,000 to $150,000 a year. There's a lot of sleepless nights that go along with that because you got a lot of money borrowed. Then there are also those years where I made roughly $500,000. 2 years later, I literally lost $250,000. And that's when the markets tank, when it gets tough out there. And that's where you've got to have the staying power financially in the bank. And so there's just a wide range of what you've got in your life. And so in this career, I'm not much of a gambler to go to Cripple Creek, but yet there's probably not a bigger gambling career than there is in the building industry. There are great years, but there are those that are really challenging. In the field, I spent a lot of time in my pickup, going from job to job, and occasionally I now sweep out the houses. I not only am the construction superintendent and/or project manager, but I'm also the laborer, because I've kind of narrowed things down to where we don't have any employees, and it's really a good place to be. I sleep better at night. But that work environment does carry you. It does affect your life at home. Hours, 80-hour weeks were not unusual. If you're not willing to work 60-hour weeks, don't become a builder, because it's going to demand that without batting an eye. In the old days, it was getting my pickup very early, go to the job site, string out all the tools, work a good day, pick back up, put them all in your pickup, and go home that night. Today, it is, I'm going to go kind of to the middle of the career where we're building 3 or 4 homes a year, and it would be get to the office before everyone else does, look at the schedules on the jobs, make sure the superintendent is running the jobs the way he should, and that we've got laborers where they need to be to take care of things. And we subcontract all our work. We don't have crews. We never had crews that did our work for us. We hired everybody to do that. And so we've got to manage those people and make sure they're where they need to be when they need to be there. And so I would, during the day, an awful lot of the times I'd be out on the job site just checking things. And then a role for me is I'm also the salesman, and I'm also the estimator. So I do a day's work, and then I'm meeting with the clients in the evening or on the weekends. And then I also handle all of the financial things as far as just making sure we're getting paid and making sure that everybody that works for us is getting paid. And that's something that you just don't ever want to get to where you don't have enough money in the bank to pay your employees and your subcontractors. That's a tough way to go. In the construction industry, there are ups and downs. There are cycles, and then there are also when you've got work and don't have work with regards to in between jobs. So it's a case of you've got to save for the rainy day because it is going to rain, and so you've got to be careful with taking care of your needs way ahead of time. Our rule of thumb is we needed to be able to manage our expenses for 6 months at a time without any income. And there was an opportunity in our lives where we actually did a small development, and we went 18 months without any income coming in. So that was a long time, and we bled ourselves down awful low, but it paid off in the long run. First of all, you've got to put family life first. I am proud to say I don't know that I missed a soccer game of my daughter's. Now, does that make me a great father? No, but I was committed to her. We've just got one child. And somehow my wife and I have made 40 years. So, that's a good deal. But I think you've got to be able to draw the line. One thing that I have never done, still haven't to today, is I don't take work home with me. I've never had a home office. I have to admit, late in my career, where I'm at now, purposely slowing way down, having this electronic device that's got a lot of the information that used to only be on my computer is helpful. And so I'm probably doing more phone calls and more communication. Back then we didn't have texting, we didn't have emails, but I'm doing more of that from home today. But I didn't mix home with my occupation. I left work at work and I tried to do home at home. Now, that worked really well until I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning thinking about that banker and how much money I owed him. And, so that is a challenge. If, I've not always been a real good sleeper, and that also affects the family life. So how does the saying go? If it gets too hot, get out of the kitchen. And I've written that down a couple of times to myself, saying, if it's more than you can handle, then maybe it's time to look for something different. I have gone through my life. There's been 2 different times when I've dealt with depression, and it evolved around those sleepless nights, and sleepless nights wear on you, and that was from work. And then when you have those sleepless nights and you just, the depression can come on, and it just kind of exacerbates, and pretty soon you're in a dark place, and it takes a while to get out of that. So it's not a career for the people that just want life to go smooth. I've got to give credit where credit's due. My wife has been by my side and the encourager all the way through. I can literally drive around Colorado Springs, mostly North Colorado Springs, and in northern El Paso County and southern Douglas County. There isn't a single home that I built that I'm not proud of. And there have been very few times in my career that people haven't been more than satisfied with our homes. I had a really neat thing happen to me about a year and a half ago. Well, it was during COVID, so it's been less than a year. Some people called me and said, "We have just sold our home, but we wanted to let you know how much we enjoyed it. We are the 3rd owners of this home, and we can't believe how maintenance-free it was for us, the 3rd owner down." And I had built that home in 2003, so it was 16 years old at the time. And they just said, "We just wanted to let you know how great it was." Well, I felt like I needed to go meet them. And it was a little bit cumbersome because they were really afraid of the COVID thing, but I just needed to introduce myself to these folks and just say, "Thank you, that made me feel awful good." So, being able to help people with not only just one of the basic needs of life, but more than that for their enjoyment. You talk about the family. Our homes help families to enjoy life. The small-time home builder is going to be challenged more and more all the time. The demands that are being put on the suppliers and the workforce out there by the tract builders, the builders that build many, many homes a year, keep so many of those, the suppliers and the labor force, they keep them tied up and busy. And so trying to come up with supplies and labor force for the small-time home builder is going to become more and more difficult all the time. So that's one of the demands that I see. It's going to be difficult to overcome, and it's getting worse and worse. The big-time builders, the tract builders, gobble up all the lots, and so it's difficult to get lots to build on. So it's going to get less friendly as you go on. I'm not sure there's anything that I wish I would have known before I began, because that's part of the learning process. You are what you learn, and so I am who I am because of the struggles that I had, and those lessons that you learn are the ones that you maintain and really keep track of. In other words, when you run short of money, you realize next time I'm going to save more and have a little bit better padding in the bank. You know, maybe I could say that preparation would be more education. You know, literally the reading, writing, and arithmetic. I didn't pay attention. You know, I didn't learn how to write letters real well. My communication skills aren't the best, both on paper and verbally. I get by because I'm a pretty good guy and I know how to smile, and I, you know, enjoy being around people. But there's just a lot that I see other people being able to communicate. When you need to communicate in a challenging way, sometimes it's putting your foot down kind of communications, and other times it's keep your foot out of hot water communication. Mm-hmm. Money was a big driver for me. The desire to make money was very important. My family life growing up was mom and dad fighting over money. And so I determined early in life that I needed to make some money because I didn't want to raise my family like my folks raised us. That's not slamming my parents. That's a good Catholic family, having 5 children in 7 years. Money was important to me because and therefore I saw this as a career where I could make some pretty good money. Early on it was working by the hour and working a lot of hours, and then I realized if I work smarter, then I can make really good money. And you know, in my estimation, what I've done has been really good money, and I am incredibly blessed for, you know, where I've been in my career. And it feels really good right now to wind down, even though as you ramp up your career, there's a lot of challenges and struggles, and you work awful hard. It is every bit as difficult to ramp down your career or start slowing down, because you've been geared to go faster and harder and more all the time. And then when you decide that you want to start slowing down, and you know, there's a real a driver out there. It used to be money that I wanted to ramp up my career, and now it's grandkids that I am enjoying, that I want to spend more time with to ramp down the career. So an incredibly blessed man.